It started with an old article I found buried deep in a dusty stack of newspapers at the local library. A small faded piece tucked away in the back corner of a forgotten section. The headline read, "The Vanishing of Larkin's Hollow, a mystery still unsolved." I remember reading it over and over, the words not quite making sense. A town that had existed in the 18th century, suddenly abandoned overnight. No warning, no explanation, just gone. The article painted an eerie picture of the town, a once thriving settlement that had been swallowed by time, its inhabitants vanishing without a trace. The buildings, still intact, stood as if frozen in time, plates left half full on dining tables, chairs knocked over as if people had just gotten up to leave, a child's doll, abandoned in the dirt, its porcelain face cracked, eyes staring blankly at the sky. It was unsettling to say the least, but it also intrigued me. So, naturally, I shared it with my friends, and before I knew it, we had made plans to visit. It was a perfect day when we arrived. The sun hung high in the sky, casting long shadows on the ground, and the wind carried the scent of fresh pine and earth. We didn't know exactly where Larkin's Hollow was, but we followed a trail that led us deeper into the woods, as if the trees themselves were guiding us toward it. The path was overgrown, nearly swallowed by nature, but there were signs of something that had once been a road. When we finally reached the town, it was everything the article had described, and more. The buildings, despite being centuries old, stood eerily intact. Weathered wood, cracked stone, and rusted metal, but there was no sign of decay or destruction. It was as if someone had pressed pause on the entire town. The houses were mostly small cottages, each with its own dilapidated porch and broken windows. But there was something unnerving about the stillness of it all. The air was thick, almost suffocating, like the town was holding its breath. We ventured further in, our footsteps the only sound breaking the silence. The streets were narrow, the cobblestones cracked and uneven, leading us past what appeared to be abandoned shops. Through one of the windows, I caught a glimpse of an old wooden rocking chair, gently swaying back and forth, though there was no breeze. Then the whispers started. At first it was barely audible, just a faint rustling sound that I thought could have been the wind. But the more we walked, the clearer it became. It wasn't the wind at all. It was voices, soft at first, like distant murmurs, unintelligible, as if the town itself were speaking. "It's just the wind." But the whispering grew louder, more insistent, swirling around us, until it was no longer just a murmur. It was like a chorus of voices, low and unsettling, echoing from all directions. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and a cold chill crept up my spine. "We should go." We turned to leave, but something happened. The town changed. The streets shifted before our eyes, the paths we had taken no longer in front of us. The buildings, no longer quaint and forgotten, looked as though they were closing in. The air thickened and the light of the fading sun grew dimmer. The road behind us was gone, replaced by a labyrinth of alleys and twisted paths, impossible to navigate. "What the hell?" He grabbed my arm, pulling me toward what he thought was the exit, but it was no use. The town wasn't just abandoned, it was alive in some twisted, malevolent way. The walls seemed to shift and groan as if they were moving. The air smelled different now, thick, foul, like something rotten, decaying in the heat. My stomach churned. Suddenly there was a sound, a dragging noise like feet shuffling on dirt. We froze. Out of the corner of my eye I saw them. Figures. At first they were barely visible, just silhouettes, moving slowly in the distance. But as they drew closer, I could make them out. People. At least they looked like people. They were dressed in tattered colonial clothing, their faces pale, their features sunken and hollow. Their eyes were empty, just dark pits that seemed to stare right through us. Their mouths were stretched open in silent screams, their hands outstretched, reaching for us. Anna screamed, her voice high and panicked, but before she could run, one of the figures reached out and grabbed her. She didn't even fight. She just disappeared, like she was swallowed by the air itself. It happened in an instant, her body vanishing as though she had never existed. "Anna!" Sam cried, but there was no answer. The whispers turned to laughter, dark, cruel laughter that seemed to come from everywhere, wrapping itself around us like a tightening noose. Panic surged through me, and I pulled Sam toward the direction we thought might be an exit, but it was hopeless. No matter which way we turned, the town pressed in on us, and the shadows stretched, contorting into impossible shapes, closing us in. I looked behind me, and there, standing at the edge of the street, was Anna. But she was wrong. Her face was twisted in agony, her eyes pleading, but the sound that came from her mouth was not hers. It was the voice of something ancient and malevolent. And then, just like that, she was gone again. I ran, not looking back, not daring to see what was chasing us. My legs were heavy, my body tired, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back until I reached the edge of the town. The road, our road, was there, and the sun was gone, replaced by a dark sky that seemed to stretch on forever. I took a breath, but the air still tasted wrong. When I turned around, there was nothing. The town was gone, wiped from existence. There was no sign it had ever been there, just an empty field, quiet and still. Some places don't stay abandoned, some places wait. They wait for the curious, the foolish, and once they get you, you're never really free. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and follow us for more. Join us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Blue Sky for more bone-chilling chronicles. If you dare.